The Springfield Three, three women disappear without a trace. On June 7, 1992, three women disappeared without a trace from their home in Springfield, Missouri. It was a case that would capture the attention of the nation, shrouded in mystery and speculation, as the search for the missing women stretched on for years without a single breakthrough. The Springfield Three, as the case would come to be known, remains one of the most baffling unsolved disappearances in American history. This is the story of the women who vanished that day, the investigation that followed, and the lingering questions that continue to haunt the city of Springfield to this very day. The women who vanished. The women at the heart of the Springfield Three case were Cheryl Levitt, 47, her daughter, Suzanne Streeter, 19, and Suzanne's friend, Stacy McCall, 18. On that warm summer evening, they were supposed to be celebrating the end of the school year and the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Suzanne had just graduated from Kickapoo High School, and Stacy, her best friend, was preparing to attend college. It was a moment of joy, full of promise and excitement. Cheryl Levitt, a loving mother and a hairdresser by trade, was known for her kindness and generosity. She was a steady, dependable figure in the lives of her daughter and friends, always ready to lend a hand to anyone in need. Suzanne, on the other hand, was a bright young woman with a future full of possibilities. She had big dreams and was looking forward to the next phase of her life, starting with a summer job before heading off to college. Stacy McCall, Suzanne's best friend, was equally full of promise. The two had been inseparable since childhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and a bond that was as strong as family. On the night they disappeared, Suzanne and Stacy had just returned from a graduation party. The two women had stopped at a convenience store to buy some snacks before heading back to Suzanne's home on East Delmer Street, a quiet suburban neighborhood in Springfield. The night was calm, and everything seemed normal, until Suzanne's mother, Cheryl, made a phone call to a family friend. At 11:15 p.m., Cheryl placed a call to her friend, telling her that everything was fine and that the girls had gone to bed. The call was short and unremarkable. Little did anyone know, this would be the last time anyone would hear from the women. The next morning, June 7, 1992, Cheryl's ex-husband, Steve Levitt, came to the house to pick up his daughter Suzanne for a scheduled visit. But when he arrived, the house was eerily quiet. There was no sign of Cheryl, Suzanne, or Stacy. The door to the house was unlocked, and the television was on in the living room, but the women were nowhere to be found. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. Steve Levitt immediately called the police, reporting that his ex-wife and daughter were missing. Officers arrived at the scene and began searching the house for any clues. The search revealed no signs of forced entry or a struggle, which ruled out the possibility of a robbery gone wrong. The women's personal belongings, including purses and wallets, were still in the house, further complicating the case. It seemed as though the three women had simply disappeared, leaving behind no trace of where they had gone or why they had left. As soon as the police were called, the investigation into the disappearance of Cheryl Levitt, Suzanne Streeter, and Stacy McCall began in earnest. Detectives scoured the neighborhood, speaking to neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have information about the women's whereabouts. The case quickly gained media attention, and soon, the city of Springfield was captivated by the mystery. One of the first leads came from a neighbor, who reported hearing strange noises coming from the Levitt home during the night. The neighbor described hearing the sound of a car in the driveway around 2 a.m., followed by the sound of footsteps and voices. However, no one could identify the people involved or determine whether this was related to the disappearances. It was one of many pieces of the puzzle that would remain frustratingly elusive. Police also began to interview those closest to the women. Friends and family members described Cheryl as a caring, responsible mother who would never have abandoned her daughter. Suzanne and Stacy were also described as close-knit and not the type to run away. This led authorities to believe that something sinister had happened to them. A few weeks into the investigation, the police released a composite sketch of a potential suspect. The sketch was based on a description given by a witness who reported seeing a man in the area around the time of the women's disappearance. However, the suspect remained unidentified, and no further leads came from this angle. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case was the lack of physical evidence. Despite an extensive search of the area surrounding the Levitt home, no clues were found. The women's vehicles, which were parked in the driveway, showed no signs of being tampered with. Their belongings were left behind, and there were no signs of a struggle or forced entry into the house. This only deepened the mystery and led many to speculate about what could have happened. Theories began to emerge, with some people suggesting that the women had been victims of a random abduction, while others believed they may have been involved in something more personal. Some even speculated that one of the women may have staged the disappearance, although this seemed highly unlikely given the circumstances. Theories and speculation. As time went on, a number of theories were put forward to explain the disappearance of the three women. Some of the more prominent theories include: 1. Abduction by a stranger. One of the most widely discussed theories was that the women had been abducted by a stranger. Given the lack of evidence and the fact that no one had seen anything unusual, many believed that a serial abductor or someone with a history of criminal activity could have been responsible for the disappearance. However, no other cases of abductions in the area were linked to the Springfield Three, and no suspect had been identified. 2. The involvement of a local man. Another theory that gained traction involved a local man who had been seen around the Levitt home in the days leading up to the disappearances. Some believed that this man may have had a personal connection to one or more of the women and that the abductions were the result of a domestic dispute or some other form of personal conflict. However, investigators were unable to substantiate this theory with any solid evidence. 3. A drifter or transient. Some investigators suggested that a drifter or transient who had been passing through Springfield could have been responsible for the women's disappearance. This theory was based on the idea that the perpetrator could have been a stranger who had no connection to the women but saw an opportunity to commit a crime. However, there was no concrete evidence to support this theory either. 4. The women left on their own. Another possibility that was discussed was that the women had left voluntarily. Some believed that one or more of the women had decided to leave and start a new life elsewhere, though this seemed unlikely given the circumstances. No one close to the women believed they would have left without a trace, and the fact that their belongings were left behind made this theory less plausible. 5. The role of drugs or alcohol. Over the years, there has also been speculation that drugs or alcohol may have played a role in the disappearances. Some believed that the women may have been involved in substance abuse and that their disappearance could have been related to this. However, no evidence supporting this theory was ever found. The impact on Springfield. The disappearance of the Springfield Three left a lasting impact on the city of Springfield and the people who knew the women. The case became a source of constant speculation, with friends and family members holding on to the hope that the women would one day be found. Yet, as the years passed, the case went cold, and the mystery only deepened. The story of the Springfield Three continued to make headlines throughout the 1990s, but despite numerous efforts by law enforcement, the women were never found. Several private investigators took up the case, and the FBI even became involved in the investigation, but all leads proved to be fruitless. The disappearance of Cheryl, Suzanne, and Stacy remained one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in the history of Missouri. The lingering questions. As of today, the Springfield Three case remains unsolved, and the women's whereabouts are still unknown. Despite the passage of time, the investigation continues, and new theories and leads occasionally emerge, but none have provided the breakthrough that investigators have been hoping for. The case has never been closed, and the mystery of what happened to Cheryl Levitt, Suzanne Streeter, and Stacy McCall continues to captivate and haunt the people of Springfield. The disappearance of the Springfield Three is a story of uncertainty, heartache, and unanswered questions. It is a tragedy that continues to resonate with those who remember the women and the lives they might have lived. For the families and friends of Cheryl, Suzanne, and Stacy, the pain of not knowing what happened to their loved ones is a constant source of sorrow. The Springfield Three case remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of the 1990s, and as long as the women remain missing, the questions will continue to linger. Who took them? Why did they disappear? And where are they now? Until these questions are answered, the story of the Springfield Three will remain an open chapter in the annals of true crime history.